I lost Lukus. Where'd he go?
Eh?
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Where did I go? Did I disappear? I'm invisible. Can you see me?
OBS was just like, I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. Lukus who? I don't do this every week. Hello everybody. Welcome to the Sandbox Saturday stream. I'm Alex Flores, aka Kamisazi, joined here by this disembodied spirit. I can't talk today, apparently. The disembodied spirit of Lukus is right. How you doing, Lukus?
I am doing quite well. I didn't even know we were live there for a second. I was a little confused. My actual feed from Twitch was apparently like 2 minutes behind. So I was like looking at the screen, like wondering, like where are we? What are we doing? What's happening now? Yeah, and that made me think I was listening to another feed for a second there because somebody just redeemed party. So now I am like 10 shades of confused and happy to be here. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing all right. We've got some important stuff that I want to talk about that I've been meaning to talk about for a couple weeks now, but the past few Wednesdays I have been out of sorts. And I'm like mostly in sorts today. So we're gonna talk about
sorts are the best.
We're gonna do some tutorial sort of things in a bit here. But first, the news. So we've got the Autumn's Vibe Vox Edit contest, which closes on October 22nd, which is in 4 days. Some of the entries I'm seeing on Twitter, absolutely flipping gorgeous.
No party like a panda pop's party, like a panda pop's party. Whoop whoop.
There's one actually.
I'm gone, Alex. I'm not here anymore.
I don't know why Discord's doing this.
How dare you?
I think I didn't have at least one pixel of the window showing. It wasn't minimized, but it got fully covered up by the main Discord window because of the way I set it up, and it decided that it didn't want to see you anymore.
Alex is trying to push me out. I'm on to you. Your tomfoolery. Malarkey.
All right. I'm trying to find. There was one specific. I mean, there's been a bunch of good entries that I've seen so far. There's one in particular that I was like, woo! And I'm gonna see if I can. I think I retweeted it. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. Where'd it go? There's too many things. There we go. We're gonna put this in the front. We're gonna put this in the back, and then just look how cute this thing is. Observe. Just like look at that style. It's dripping with style.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, the layering of levels, and characters super adorable. I love the way these trees look here, and yeah, it's just super cute all around. So
it's a unique style while still sticking with stuff that we've seen before in the sandbox. It's clearly a style all their own. Well, going with the theme. That's wonderful. Who did that?
That was by Metaguma, at Metaguma _voxel, which they're gonna follow because I guess
I was about to say if I'm not following him right now, I'm gonna go follow him. I think I am though. I am. Yeah.
We got Damon Voxel Art doing a pumpkin juicer. Some very juicy looking pumpkins there. Got Iritos with this little pumpkin shop. I say little. It's a pumpkin house. It's a big size pumpkin thing.
I feel like I could raise a family in there. You know,
yeah.
Move out of the city, move into my pumpkin in the suburbs.
Exactly.
Really have a nice life with my kids. Send them to a good pumpkin school.
As long as they're home by midnight. Andy Graga's got a whole rocking out pumpkin band just jamming. There's actually music with this.
Really?
Yeah. I'm hoping this is copyright free. We're gonna take the risk.
Who's to say?
So they're jamming out. and it reminds me of what Panda made with the undeads band.
Oh
A
yeah,
couple
I
years
remember
ago.
that. That
Yeah.
was awesome.
So cool
She's so
one there.
talented.
Well, this doesn't feel like autumn, but it looks cool. We got this
autumn colors.
majestic. Yeah, it's got. I guess it's autumn colors. Yeah, the trees
They
are
took
very
that
green.
traditional, like, is that Japanese architecture?
This
And
would
they
be
were like, we're
Chinese,
gonna
I
take
think.
Chinese, and they took the reds and the whites and they turned it into oranges and greens. I dig it. It's off the beaten path.
Um, I mean, there's yeah, I think I think it would be a Chinese pagoda based on these little structures here, and I've seen these little circles before. There is some like overlap in style, but pretty sure that would count as Chinese. I'm not an architectural expert in by any means, but
I know I'm in a house right now. That's about it. Wait, one second. Okay, so I was corrected. I'm not in a house. I am in an apartment. So don't listen to anything I say.
There you go. This one's not odd. I've seen this one before. This one's from spring. It actually says spring contest. So we're far back in history now. All right.
Love history.
So yeah. Anyway, Autumn's Vibe contest. You got 4 more days to enter. Just get cozy with it. Get cozy with it, or spooky. You know, up to you. But make something autumn themed. And
we're not going to tell you how to live your life.
Well, we're going to tell you to live in autumn. That's what we're going to say.
That's fair.
Yeah,
it's time zone restrictions.
We're going to totally tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's more of a direction.
If you're in the southern hemisphere and it's spring for you, you get autumn with it. Just... We've got Extraordinary Attorney Wu minting. Sorry. They might have sold out actually. They buy yours now. Nope, they're still minting. But the reveal happens on the 19th, which is tomorrow.
So I got a fun story about this. As I mentioned before, my wife was a fan of the show, and we recently went and saw her parents, and her mother just spent, I think it was like a month and a half, 2 months in Korea, and we had dinner with her on Sunday night. So this past Sunday night, and I mentioned the fact that the Sandbox was doing an Extraordinary Attorney Wu avatar mint, and she just stops me and she goes, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "I'm gonna need you to show me how to buy one of those." She proceeded to go on this 15-minute rant about how the Extraordinary Attorney Wu, it was all she heard people talking about when she was in Korea this past month and a half. And it's all the rage with all the kids and all the rage with all the adults, and everybody loves it. And she just went on and on and on. It got to the point where I was like, I really wish I hadn't even brought this up anymore. But at the same time, it was still really, really fun hearing her talk about it. So it's just this third person experience of something that we have going on here that she's just absolutely in love with. And I was just like, are you a fangirl of Extraordinary Attorney Wu? And she just stopped and she goes, now we need to talk about something else. So I set up a MetaMask wallet for my mother-in-law, and this was her first NFT purchase on the blockchain period. And I thought that was really neat. Yeah.
That's special.
So it's kind of special. Kind of super special.
All right. So we've got a new event. We're just going to watch this trailer real quick. This is the Dr. Bumkus event.
Dr. Bumkus.
Yes, finally. Let's see what you have for me. No! Why don't it work? Let's see then. Oh, is that so?
Adventurers, explorers, travelers, lurkers, metanauts. Crystals are the keys to the vault. Help the doctor, help yourself. Only the best will be rewarded.
All right. So, not a lot of info there,
But a lot of excitement.
but a
Much
lot
excitement?
a lot of stuff to get excited about. We've been planning this event for a long time. And it's coming very soon. So, there was one bit of info. I'm trying to think where I saw it. It might have been on Twitter. Let me double check. So yeah, this event's going to be a big deal. And did I retweet it? I did. So there's this tweet from the Sandbox, and the trials begin October 25th, so in a week. Oh, I feel like there was more information, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed
Is it a
to
thread?
say it yet.
Well, let's hold. Why don't we just give people the tweet, let them do their own exploring, because I know there is a lot of things that we can't say, and so let's just let them explore on their own.
Here we go. There's a Medium article. This is what I was looking for. So there's an upcoming event, Dr. Bumkus's Trials, which will feature fierce competition across 6 worlds beginning October 25th. Notice that fierce competition. Now it's time to prepare for pass distribution. Look at this. Look, it's got this glitchy text effect and everything.
I love the Dr. Is it Bumkus or Bumkus?
Bumkus.
Bumkus.
I think.
I love Dr. B's ticket. It is wonderful. It's got a little teleporter, Stargate, portal in the center of it. It's got those old school computer monitor screens. It's just everything. It's like everything I've ever loved from old sci-fi movies, all wrapped into one ticket. I think it's really neato.
Yeah. A wallet snapshot covering our NFT owners will occur on October 19th, tomorrow, at 4 p.m. UTC to prepare for the pass distribution. Passes will come in the form of an exclusive NFT that will grant access to the new Dr. Bumkus Trials event. What does it mean? We will note the contents of your wallet at the specified snapshot time in order to determine whether you'll be placed on the allow list to mint a pass for free on October 20th and begin the trials. What needs to be in my wallet? Players who own one of the following NFTs will be added to the allow list when the snapshot occurs. The Sandbox land, or the Sandbox avatar, or an interoperable avatar from an external collection, including Bored Ape Yacht Club, Avagachi, Rabbitars, Head 5 by Deadmau5, Clay Nation, The Underwatch, Queens and Kings by Hackatow, Fun Guy Family, Gorgeous Collection, I think, Onistra by Craves, Naturally Digital by... there's a bunch.
There is a
Cyber
bunch.
Syndicate, Community Collection, Astrogator Fam, Octoheads VX, Junkyard Dogs VX, X Moose OG, Thunderbirds International Rescue Club, The Zoopers Genesis, The User Collection, The Lockers, The Scaredy Cubits, Wrens, X The Sandbox, Mutant Cats, Meta Bounty Hunters, Meta Bounty Huntress, Meebits, Lucky Miners, Cosmic Labs, all 4 of those, Everest, Distopunks VX, Demigods of Rock, World of Women Galaxy, World of Women, Cyberkong VX on Polygon or original, Stickman Toys, Bored Mummy Waking Up, Gorilla Nemesis, Lazy Lions, Raps by Warp Sound, Pixelton, Supernormal, Scaredy Cubits Genesis, Alpacadabras, 9669 Assets, OCM Karma, Super Plastic, Voxies, The Monster Cities, Jungle Freaks, On-Chain Monkeys, Supducks, Rumblekongs League, Deadfellas, Voxadeos, Avatars, Omnimorphs, Gutter Clones, Shark Boy Fight Club, Lady Pixie, Clonex, Gods of Rock, Gutter Pigeons, Gutter Cats, Gutter Dogs, Gutter Rats, Gutter Cats. I think I said them out of order, but I think I got them all. Cool Cats, Moonbirds, Shibuya 109, Paris Hilton, Elvis Presley, Algorians, Tsubasa Team Collections, Zepto Lab Omnom Cut the Rope Avatars, The Wild Ones, Rabbitars, New Year avatars, Steve Aoki, Snoop Dogg, the Doggies, LaMelo Ball avatars, Care Bear avatars, the Playboy Party People, Olive X, Jim A Club, the Unity Squad, Hell's Kitchen, Madballs, Gooniverse, People of Crypto, Fist of the North Star.
Quite a few community collections. So Panda avatars will get you on that list. Also, one thing I would like to throw out there,
Did it say
somebody's
that?
asking this. Panda said that. She said community collection, Panda
Oh.
avatars unite. So
Okay.
I believe community collection was towards the top. Am I wrong? Panda's saying it, so I believe it.
Community collection, right there.
Okay, cool. Got it, coach. But one thing I would like to throw out there is Asiv is asking, one of the articles says 3 p.m., the other one says 4 p.m. I want to make sure I get in there in time so that they don't sell out before I get there. And I do believe there will be an allocation based off of who's available. So, or no, who makes the list. So if you're not in there, the second this gets released, you're not going to miss out. You can take your time. If your wallet is allocated via the snapshot, then don't worry about getting there the second they're released. They will be available for an extended. I believe you can mint all the way up till the end of the experience. So don't freak out. Don't stress. Don't call in sick to work so you can get this done. Just make sure you do get it done when you get the chance.
Important note, though, if you purchase the above NFTs after the snapshot, you won't be eligible for the mint. So as long as you're holding one of these avatars, and good grief, if I could mint one for every single avatar I have, I'd have a bunch.
Maybe
but then I also have them because of land. So make sure you have that before tomorrow at 4 p.m. UTC, I think is what it said. 4 p.m. UTC. So
also,
make sure.
Yep. I was gonna say I found out this morning that if you have land and you have an avatar, then you'll have the ability to mint 3, I believe. So if one of your friends doesn't get in or doesn't have something to get in, you'll be able to throw them a little gift. Spread the love, pay it forward, share it with your community because you're gonna want friends doing this with you. It's a lot more fun to run around the metaverse when your homies are by your side.
If I have extras, and if I have extras available, I will probably give some away on stream. I doubt that this is minting on Polygon.
It's on Ethereum.
Yeah, because it's a Sandbox asset.
It's a Sandbox asset, but it's also, I believe what they said in the meeting this morning was something along the lines of the way that it's set up, the functionality of it isn't available on Polygon yet, so they had to do it on Ethereum, if I remember correctly.
So the NFT, yeah, and I can explain why. So the NFT gating feature for the Sandbox right now has 2 options. Okay. One, you can set a Sandbox asset, like the token ID. You use the token ID, but it has to be from the Sandbox collection. Or you can set it to a bridged avatar collection, like
one or the other.
Yeah, that's currently what the options are. So like if you have you could enable it for Rabbitars or for Head 5 or whatever. So you can gate to that NFT collection, or you can gate to a specific Sandbox asset, and the layer 2 Sandbox asset is not deployed yet, the contract for it. So basically anytime you see that it's going to be a Sandbox asset, until layer 2 is running, it's going to be on layer 1.
Okay.
The team said Polygon. I mean, if it says it on here, it's your Polygon. Yeah, I only see one instance of Polygon. It's just mentioning CyberKong VX. I mean, either way, like it's a free mint, so all you're paying is gas. Gas fees on Ethereum have been pretty low lately. The most expensive gas fee I've had on Ethereum in the past couple months has been like $2, maybe $3. So if it's on Polygon, it'll be a couple pennies. If it's on Ethereum, it'll be maybe $1 or $2, depending on which day you mint. But it's a free mint either way, so it's not like you are going to need to save up a bunch for that. Yeah. So.
I'm sorry. I'm reading in the Ambassador chat right now, and earlier this morning, Amy's saying that she can confirm that the Bombkiss Pass will be on Layer 2.
Oh, it might not actually be a Sandbox asset then.
Yeah.
Or they got the Layer 2. It may be one of the first Layer 2 items minted.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get confirmation one way or the other. So I'm gonna ask, even though we have. Gotcha. Thank you.
I'm always willing to be wrong. Because then I make myself right, and then I'm never wrong. But yeah, as far as I know, it can't be done on Polygon, but that is something that is planned to be changed in the near future. So it may, by the time that goes live, there may be different things happening. So you know how to sign up for the Sandbox, hopefully, if you're here. But if you don't, they've got a whole little tutorial on how to register. See, my brain still doesn't register X as meaning Twitter. So when I see X account, I'm like, you're what? So yeah, not a lot of info here about the details of this event. But this did say what I was looking for, which was what the whitelist is. So yeah, if you have land or Sandbox avatar, you're in. And if you don't have one of those, you have till tomorrow, 4 p.m. UTC to get that.
Do it.
All right, we're done with those. Socio League Arena Vox Edit Contest is closing up on October 28th. So you still got 10 days for this one. Again, this is, what is the future of football or soccer? How do you envision that? Make it in Vox Edit. The Deadfellas Game Jam Award ceremony is set to happen this Saturday. I should hopefully be there this time. And we're going to check out who our top 10 place winners are. Play first place live on stream. Excited for that. And we'll see you there. At what time is our stream on Saturdays? It's 2 p.m. Eastern time, which makes it 7 p.m. UTC? 6 p.m. UTC?
Please rephrase the question. I was reading something from the ambassador, the head lead ambassador.
UTC time right now is 9:30, so it's 4 hours later than my local time. So 6 p.m. UTC, we will be doing the Deadfellas Game Jam Award Show right here, twitch.tv/the Sandbox Game. And Panda's Pick of the Week is voxel artist Game Eddie, or Eduardo Garay, I'm guessing is how that would be said. Freelance motion graphics and VFX. Voxel artist at the Sandbox Game. Cellx, that's our staff group. And Creator Fund Cell number 3 from our old Creator Fund groups. And just look at this guy's work. This is crazy.
Oh my god, I've seen this stuff before. I am a big fan of this arcade piece he did. I think if you read the text, I believe it's from a while ago.
This was posted September 2nd. He said he did it a long time ago for Teto Studio. I don't know how long ago, but yeah, just great like optimized use of voxels, like if you look at the back here, like this ribbon cable coming out the back. Just great character design, great colors, just everything about this. This is
so amazing.
This guy should get his own show on Cartoon Network. That's what this guy looks like. And of course, I'm a sucker for anything with the TV-headed robot. So
Yes, I was just about to say the only thing that can make this any better for me would be maybe giving him like another pair of legs, so he's got 4 legs, so he can like crab walk everywhere. 'Cause he just looks a little top heavy. But aside from that, it's like BMO from Adventure Time's big bro who decided that steroids were the way to go. Like just absolutely perfect. I love that character. I love the aesthetics of it so much.
Pokemon kind of character here. Super cute.
Absolutely.
All right. So
So
you want to learn how to build in the Sandbox Game Maker?
I do.
So I've been like ready to do this kind of tutorial for weeks now because I was going to do it on stream, and the stream had already gone long for like 2 hours, and I was like, we'll do it next week, and then next week didn't happen, and then next week didn't happen. This week is happening, but I've got another tutorial to do first. Is really short, and I already have it all set up here. So this question, there was a question Conrad actually asked me.
Oh,
because Conrad was playing other people's games, and he noticed that when people were having like an animated event happen in a multiplayer social hub, it was happening for all players. He's like, is there a way that you can make it play just for the character who sets it off, for the player who sets it off? Because it's like something like a jump scare, or like an animated event, a scene, a part of a quest, or something like that. If it happens for all the players, it kind of takes away from the players who aren't there right there when it happens. You know, the ones who aren't setting it off. So how do you make it so that way this event only happens to the player who is the one who's supposed to see it? And it's not actually hard to set it up. So I did a little experiment. I knew that there was a couple different ways we could try to set this up, and out of all of these 5, only one of them works for only the player seeing it, but there are 3 other versions of this that are usable for other purposes, and one of them just doesn't work at all. And we're going to break down each of these. So the one that works for the purpose of having any player see it by themselves is this 5th one here on the right, if we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left to right. This is the one that we like. And these 2, numbers 3 and 4, they work well for all players seeing it at the same time. And there's both that they work differently, but they both have a use case. Like that, there may be a reason you want one over the other. This number 2 is the one that doesn't work at all, and number 1 here does work, does have a specific use case, but it does cause lag, and you probably don't want to use it unless you have a very specific scenario. So we're gonna start with number 1, and we're gonna work our way towards the one that we like. So all of these are a very simple setup using 2 assets, except for this middle one, which uses a totally different method. But our basic setup is we've got a sensor. We've got a numpad here that just has a speaker component on it, and then we've got an animated decoration asset. Now we are kind of using a multiplication grid here. So we've got 2 options using the multiplayer behavior setup, 2 using single player setup, but on a multiplayer hub, and then 2 using a certain kind of sensor logic, and 2 using a different kind of sensor logic. And when we see those options, those 2 and 2 options combined, we get our 4 different results here. So the first one, we use a multiplayer speaker and a multiplayer animated decoration. And remember, multiplayer and single player assets cannot message each other. At least when you're playing on a multiplayer hub, only single player assets can interact with each other, and only multiplayer assets can interact with each other. You can't blend them, really. Hey, thanks for the raid, Hodl. So with the multiplayer speaker component, we click Edit Logic, and there are several different detection types. And I wasn't actually aware of this until I went to set this up yesterday to answer Conrad's question. There's new detection types that got introduced, I think, a couple months ago, but it kind of flew under my radar, and I hadn't really noticed it. So it used to be that we just had detect tags, detect everyone, or detect players, I think. But now we've actually got that kind of split into several different options here. And the ones we want to focus on are every avatar in range and player avatar in range. So when you see every avatar in range, that means in a multiplayer context, that is anybody playing. It doesn't mean that they have to have a Sandbox avatar or a bridged avatar. It's you're not really focusing on the type of avatar that they have. It's just the fact that they are a player besides yourself, the one playing it. So you are a player, and then there's other players. And so you and everyone else count in that every avatar in range group. And we set up all of our sensor stuff. So we've got, this bubble around there. It's sensing for every avatar. And once it senses the player, it sends a message. And here I've just set the message to send as MP for multiplayer avatar. And then our Jokey Smurfs prank box is set to start with the idle animation, meaning it just sits here as a box. That's what it looks like at the start of the game. And then we add another animation element, and we set it to play the attack animation, which is it blowing up, when it receives that message, MP avatar. Okay. And so that looks like we run up, and we see that the logic works. And we'll actually see that it works on all of these except for that number 2, right? So we can run by these, and they'll set off again. So in our animation settings, we set it for a play count of 1, so it plays it once. There's a slight delay for it to play, so it has like a cooldown time. You would want to set these up to whatever makes sense for your project. You may have a different set of animations. You may have different types of animations set off for different reasons. You can make this as complicated or as simple as you want. But the main thing is just that we have it as an idle with nothing happening at the start. And then when it senses that message, it sets off the animation. So this is the one that works with the multiplayer logic. It does not work great on a multiplayer. Like, it worked fine for me playing it right now on screen. But when I tested this as an actual published experience on the Game Maker Draft Gallery as a social hub, it did have a lag spike associated with this logic because it's synchronizing this message to all players. For me, that made it look like the animation played, and then there was a lag spike, and then it went back to normal. For Joseph, who was testing with me, it would lag spike first, and then the animation would play. So it was a little bit unpredictable. But you might still want to use this if you have other logic in your game that needs multiplayer interactivity. So if you've got other, if say you're doing like a weather thing, there are certain logics that are only available for multiplayer. So like if we look at weather switcher is only a multiplayer behavior. So if you have something happen, scary monster pops out and then it turns to night using the weather switcher. You would need to use the multiplayer. And you can use these multiplayers in a single player. Basically, when you're in single player, kind of everything works. But if you're in a multiplayer situation, in a multiplayer hub, then you might want to use this. Even with the lag spike, it will cause whatever your next logic is to happen correctly. So not the best option, but it works. This is the one that doesn't work at all. So if we still use the multiplayer component and the multiplayer behavior for our speaker and our animated decoration, but we set detection type to player avatar in range, meaning the person who's setting it off, the person who is actively in that range, should be the one who actually sees it. For whatever reason, this doesn't work at all. Just nothing happens. So if you're trying to do this setup with the multiplayer speaker, it's not going to work. You can only use this player avatar in range with the single player behavior, or with the single player logic detection type. There we go. So we're going to skip that one. Now, this is the most efficient option. It uses only one asset. This option is fine if you're okay with all players seeing the animation. So we've got the exact same animation setup, but instead of our play condition being on receive message, we set it to play on detect player. And for whatever reason, this play on detect player works with any player. So the detection for the animation logic works kind of the old way the speaker component worked, in that there was no distinction from one player to another player. So play on detect player, this will play when any player runs by it. You might want to use this because it uses only one asset. It makes your logic a little more slim. You don't have another asset on the map that doesn't need to be there.
Less room for error.
Yeah. However, you are more limited with this option because your detection range is just the bubble related to this ring here. And it has to be centered on your animated asset. So if you, say, wanted to have a jump scare when a player walks down a hallway and at the end of the hallway a monster appears, you need to make this detection range huge to see the player at the other end of the hallway. And if they come from any other direction, it'll still set it off. Right? So this really only works if you know exactly where the player is going to set it off and you're okay with them setting off from any spot in this range.
If you're not okay with them setting off from any spot in that range.
Sorry, what was that?
What if you're not? What if you need it to be?
Oh, what if? I didn't catch the what if. So yeah.
Yeah.
So what if we can use the next one? So I should point out that before I get to that, this used the single player animated decoration. I did not test this one with the multiplayer animated decoration, although I have every reason to believe that it would work. We can try it. Obviously, we're not in a multiplayer hub right now, but if I just switch it to none, and then the nice thing about this is if I set it to none and then switch to the multiplayer version, it keeps all my settings, which is pretty cool. It allows you to just kind of toggle back and forth between those.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it saves a lot of time. And then we're gonna simulate it being multiplayer. So this should still work. Hey, it still works. Okay, just want to make sure. I did not test this in a multiplayer live scenario, but I'm guessing that this setup would still work single player and multiplayer. So, as Lucas asked, what if we want to have the detection not centered around the asset? Well, we use the same setup that we did for our very first one here, number 1, using the speaker and animated decoration, but we set them to single player, and we can offset where our sensor is. We can put the sensor anywhere. And we can even make it a box instead of a sphere if you wanted. So if you wanted like a really small, if you wanted like a wall or something, let's go with say like 10 by 1.
You can customize the detection zone pretty.
Yeah, you can make it whatever you
wildly.
want. And you
Can you make it some sort of a cone, or is it only spherical or rectangular in nature?
Yeah, just sphere and rectangle.
Okay.
Or box, as it says here.
Yeah.
So those are our options. It would be cool if we could do a cone. Then we could do like a vision cone for like enemies and stuff. That'd be
Could
pretty
you
cool.
do multiple rectangles at once?
Absolutely. You could.
So
I would do multiple spheres in that case instead
Okay.
of multiple rectangles, because the rectangles are grid locked. See, they move like terrain blocks. They snap. So even though I'm doing very small motions with the sensor, you can see that it's snapping to the terrain grid.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I would do is I would set up multiple spheres, and then you could do a little bit smaller, and then do another one.
I see what you're
Make that
saying.
one a little bit smaller, and make like a little caterpillar toy.
Yeah.
And it's not going to show it nicely because I have multiple selected. But you can see that like I've got a big sphere and a smaller sphere and a smaller sphere.
And you just get concentrically larger or smaller depending on which direction you were going, and you could make a makeshift cone that way.
Yep. So what you would want to do
cool.
with these is, if you have an NPC and you want that to be their cone of vision, whoops, you do that. You take all 3 of those and you make them children of the character, like this. And now as he walks around, they should be, whoops, the last one didn't attach. There you go. As he walks around, that cone of vision should be following. I have not tested this, but the question came up, and this is how I would set it up, and then I would test it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, we could test it. Let's see what happens. Where's our spawner? There we go. So he's gonna walk around randomly, and we're gonna see if. Let's wait until he like faces like over here. So like we're around him, we're like, haha, you can't see me. And yep, there it goes. All 3 set off. Our animation did set off. So yeah, you could totally set up, Legend of Zelda's or the guards in Zelda's castle scenario, Metal Gear Solid setup. You could totally do that kind of setup. I don't know how you would do a hiding box. in this scenario. I guess if you so what you would want to do is have a toggle behavior toggle the explosion off if you're hiding in a box. So let's say we're just gonna let's use the treasure chest. I don't know if it'll be offset correctly. So let's say this is going to be our pickable component. Pickable. Here we go. Grab offset should be like we'll say -2 on the Z, I think. That'll make it look like we're hiding in it. Just -1. -1 point. We are now inside the chest. We'll drop it down a little bit too. We'll go -1 there.
Are you a mimic?
Basically, yeah.
Makes
so
sense.
messaged on picked. We're gonna say hide, and message on drop. We'll say hide as well, because we're just gonna use it to toggle. And let's see, broadcast type. We're gonna say selected actors. Targets to pick. Can we do multiple? Yeah, we'll do it to all of them, just because I don't know. The names all show up the same, and so I don't know which one is which. But we're just gonna cover all the bases, even though we're only gonna activate this on one. Broadcast time, and then we do it again. Selected actors, targets on dropped. Select all 5 boxes. I guess technically I could have saved myself time and deleted the ones that I don't need, but oops. All right. So so this is going to send the hide message to all of those. Opacity on picked. We're going to make it fully opaque. And then on this one right here, we're going to say edit logic. So the toggle, the reason I'm doing this is that the toggle does not work on components. So I can't make it not sense from the speaker component. But I can prevent the animation from playing. So I put toggle and turn toggle message is going to be hide. So when we pick it up, it's going to turn off because our initial behavior state is true. And when we put it down, it's going to turn back on. So we will see this boom happen here, meaning that it did see us, but we shouldn't see the present explode. So we're going to pick up the chest. We're hiding inside of it. That's I kind of love that.
It's like, hello.
So we are hiding inside of it. We're going to run into his field of view. We see the boom sets off, but the present does not explode because we are holding this currently. It is toggled off that logic. So what you would do is you would not show that boom message on the speaker. You might have a speaker component on Maximilian here and have him speak when the present explodes.
Have him speak when the president. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So that way we run into this. He technically sees us, but because we're hiding in the box, he sees nothing. And then when we put it down, Why can't I put it down? There we go. That was weird. I have to jump to put it down. I think it's because of the way it overlaps with my body. It's like, you can't put it here. It's colliding with something. But when I jump, it's like, oh, wait, no, never mind. I'm good.
It's colliding with something, and that something is you.
Yeah. So yeah, you might want to make your box like a hollow asset that like has a. No, I think either way it would still do that. It's a little goofy. This isn't 100% solution. This isn't bespoke logic. This is me figuring this out on the fly. You're welcome. I just gave you how to do Metal Gear Solid. So now when we run up and see it explodes now because it toggled the box back on, Maximilian would go, "Hey you!" And then we would respawn back at the entrance to the secret lab or whatever. That's how you could do this. You're getting 3 tutorials today because we just did a detour for tutorial 1.b. So,
3 for the price of 1.
And then finally we get the one that we've actually been leading up for is, what if you want this to all happen just to the current player and not for other players? Now, I can't really show this in action because you're going to see it from my perspective anyway. But just know I did test this. I shared this game to the Game Maker Gallery as a social hub. I had somebody else run around. When Joe would run past this, I didn't see anything, but he saw the explosion. And when I ran past it, he didn't see anything, but I saw the explosion. So this is just a first-person perspective event occurring. It will only happen for the single player who actually does the interaction. Again, we've got a single player animated decoration and a single player speaker. We set our detection type to player avatar in range. That means just for this is only detecting the local logic running. So when you run a social hub, the server is running the game and also each person's computer is running the game. And your single player logic only plays on your local device. So when I play in a social hub, I am playing an instance of it that the single player only happens for me, and the single player only happens for you, and the single player only happens for the server. Even though we're all in the same instance, the single player events are only happening on our local machine. That's why we call it synchronized for the multiplayer, because what happens on my computer syncs to the server and gets sent to you. So it's only detecting people. It's only detecting players in the single player environment. That's probably why this doesn't work with the multiplayer behavior. It's just a conflict in the way it understands those things. So needs to be a single player speaker and a single player animated decoration. Detects player avatar in range and sends this message, SP player. It doesn't matter what the message is, it's whatever you want it to be. Sends that out, and the box is looking for that message, and then it plays the animation just like in all the other ones. And so now when you run up to that, if Lukus was here in the server with me, he's standing over there where Max is standing, he wouldn't have seen that explosion just now.
I'm gonna push Max out of the way to see it. Get out of here, you.
So that is how you can set up your social hubs to have a little more nuanced interaction. So if you wanted to do
cool.
If you wanted to do a Halloween hub and have a bunch of jump scares, like you could have you could have an NPC roaming around that only like goes "Rah!" when it sees you, when you're up close to it. It's just, lurking. But if you do put an NPC in your social hubs, make sure to turn off collision. That's super important. That's one of the most common bugs that we encounter when we're testing social hubs, is that assets that should not have collision get collision left on. And there's only 3, as far as I know, there's only 3 assets, only 3 behaviors that should have collision left on in a social hub that move around. And it's basic platform, bird, and what's the third one? Basic platform,
Plants.
bird. Nope, not plants. Doors.
Plants.
Doors.
You're a door.
Don't listen to Lukus. He's trying to confuse you. Birds, platforms, and doors have synchronized collision. So when the collision of those three types of
What about
assets,
ladders?
the ladders don't move. So let me rephrase this slightly.
Also, I dropped the form for the giveaway in the chat. Dropping it again.
Most of the assets that move are single player anyway. You'll notice there's no NPC, there's no healer, there's no soldier or enemy or melee or anything like that in multiplayer. But the reason why, besides the fact that there's not really proper health synchronization in multiplayer, is and no combat, is that the collisions don't synchronize. So the moving platforms and the birds, which are moving platforms that go in a circle, and doors have all been set up to synchronize their collision. If you use a single player door in a multiplayer hub and somebody opens the door, they won't be able to walk through because the server doesn't synchronize to that. And you try to walk through and the server goes, you can't, the door is shut. And so your player's going to, it feels like you're walking into a trampoline. Like you take a step forwards and it pushes you back, and you're like, and then you take a step forwards and it pushes you back. So that is what's happening with that. If you use the single player door in a multiplayer hub, you have to use the multiplayer door because you have to synchronize that collision. Otherwise, it doesn't work at all. And I've seen people who want to set up game logic with a single player door because they want to limit progression. So like you have to do this quest before you can get to this next phase. And it's very difficult to do that with multiplayer right now. There are some ideas I have for that I haven't had a chance to test out, but for the most part, in social hubs, we don't have a way to do linear progression that has like locked doors that only players who have done certain steps can get through, because it's multiplayer logic. As soon as one player unlocks the next door, all the other players can get through that door also. What you can kind of do is you can make it a time limited opening. So you can open the door for a few seconds and be like, you player, you're right here at the door and you did the quest, come on through, and then close the door behind them with multiplayer logic. And then the next people who come to the door have to do that. So you can kind of stagger it in stages like that, but it's not a perfectly clean solution. Yeah. Somebody may have thought of another way to do it, but I haven't seen it working yet.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where multiplayer is still kind of new with what we have the logic for in the game makers. So we are still coming up with ways to synchronize those things correctly. Should we separate the single and player modes to make it easier? I'm not sure what you mean by that question.
Maybe should we separate the single player and the multiplayer modes to make it easier?
Well, I mean, I inferred the correct missing words, but I'm not entirely sure. Are you saying you should make separate games?
That's what they're asking, I believe.
Make a multiplayer game where people just hang out, and then make a single player game where it's where you have all the logic. And I would say yes, that's kind of the current best mode. So Helldiggers is a great example. We just played Helldiggers on Saturday, and Helldiggers has very we played that game for what, an hour and a half or so, and it had a very in-depth. It was a very in-depth story.
Very robust.
Had a lot of twisting and turning, repeating back through sections, a lot of locking doors and stuff. And that was a single player game. But they do also have a social hub. So their social hub does not have that linear progression limitation to it, where there's locked doors and stuff. There may be areas you don't notice till later, but players are not locked out of running to those immediately when they connect. Whereas when you go to play the single player game, you're limited by the story about where you can get to because there's locked doors. So yeah, I would say that the solution right now is really to separate them. The last quest on Lade World is glitched to where it respawns you down near the beginning tree instead of up in the sky at the balloon. So I think that was reported. My team didn't do any testing on Lade World, so I don't know. I haven't played that one myself yet. I don't know what exactly is up with that one. I do know that we tested this extensively. Respawns cannot be moved in social hubs. You can try to do all sorts of different things with the respawn, but there's no. You always respawn back at wherever this is, no matter what, in multiplayer. We tried all sorts of sneaky things to try to trick it into letting us do otherwise, and none of it worked. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Lade World bugs were reported, and I'm sure that team is trying to get it sorted out and republished so that way people can play it successfully. And yeah, I do AU24K. I do agree. Like it's easier to figure out having a separate single player and a separate multiplayer game. Now, this should change in the future. Like the as each version of the Game Maker has come out with multiplayer, more features have been getting added to it. I think we first started playing around with multiplayer in either 0.5 or 0.6. It was like Halloween 2021, I think, was when we first started seeing social hubs. Was it 2021? Might have been 2022. 2020. I think it was 2021 though.
Yesterday, 9 years ago.
It's been a weird. It's been a weird few years. Time's really squished. But yeah, so some people don't have more than one land, so they, if they're trying to do this all on one land, it may be easier for them to just make the design decision at the start and go like, I want players to interact with each other, so I need to design my game in a way that doesn't require doors to be locked in front of or behind players. I need to set up my game with the knowledge that they're going to be able to go and visit any part of this map for the entire duration of the game. The thing you can do to limit backwards progression or regression, I should say, is to have a tiered approach. Now, somebody can always type /respawn into the chat and have it spawn them further back. But if you separate vertically your levels and make players drop down to the next area and you don't give them a ladder back up, they're going to keep going forwards. And yeah, like I said, they can type /respawn and they can go back to the start, and that's just an option that they have. They're always going to be able to do that. But it is a way that you can lock the door behind a player by just not giving them the ability to climb back to an old area. There's no real way to lock the door going forwards in multiplayer. because once the first player unlocks the door or makes the platform start moving, all the other players are going to see that and are going to be able to do that, because you have to use the multiplayer logic. Otherwise, the collisions get totally glitched out, and it's not a fun time. I think, like I said, there's the time delayed option. So if you try to space out the doors enough to where people starting a quest are near the initial entrance to a room, and people who are done with a quest are finishing at the exit to the room, and then you only open that door for a quick moment, then you can kind of scoot the players who have completed the quest into the next section. But somebody could always lurk and be like, haha, I'm gonna skip ahead, and ride the coattails, do the Charlie Chaplin thing and throw the hat into the door. But I think that was Charlie Chaplin, right?
Charlie Chaplin, what's his name? I had a joke and I lost it, so you can move on. Indiana Jones, there you go.
Indiana Jones said, well, he had to. I don't think he stopped the door closing with his hat, but yeah, he had to grab his hat before it got squished. But I know what you mean. So somebody could always sneak through the door right before it closes without having completed the quest. So it is just like I said, probably better to separate out those concepts before you design your game. Just be really sure whether you want it to be multiplayer, allow full access to all the areas, or be single player and have a very narrative driven progression through the game with specific stops. And then it makes your design process easier because you're not trying to figure out weird kind of hacky logics to make things happen in a certain way. So that is that discussion. Now, for the tutorial that we wanted to do, actually, did we start a giveaway?
We did, and I'm about to close it out.
All right. So for the tutorial that we've been wanting to do for a couple weeks now, I'm trying to remember what it was. But I know how to do it. Oh, it was boss logic. So
yes.
Difficulty. How do you make a game that adapts its difficulty to player skill or player preference? And it's not that hard to set up, but it does involve presets. So we're gonna use wolves. We're gonna do some wolves on a default template here. And we're gonna set this to I don't know why it defaults to asset spawner. That we're actually planning on getting rid of that. We want there to be no default behaviors because it oftentimes ends up being more confusing than helpful to a lot of people. Actually, I'm gonna exit this and gonna leave this, let this be clean, and we're gonna do a brand new one. Come on. It's gonna crash and then you're gonna have to wait another week.
No. Maybe a couple days.
Well, we can't do it Saturday because Saturday we're doing the Game Jam Awards. Hey, here we go.
I love Game Jam Awards. It always gives me a list of things to do.
They are a fun time. All right. So we're going to set this as...
Not enough wolves, Alex.
Actually, you know what? I'm not going to use wolves because they have such low stats. I'm going to use something with high HP. So we're going to go with
a giant magma golem.
I think we could probably do that. Okay. Set it down here. So we've got a melee enemy. We see it's got all these stats. 133 attack damage. Oh boy. 1,018
He's just
health.
a little guy. He's a little guy.
He's just a
little guy.
little thing. So maybe this guy is too strong. Maybe he's a little too beefcake for your players to deal with. And your players are going, I'm struggling so much. But then you've got a couple players who are like, I'm having fun. I'm actually getting use out of this legendary sword and armor set I have. And I'm not just one-hitting the boss. So you want to put an option at the start of your game that says, hey, you want to play in hard mode or easy mode? And hard mode is everything full power, full health. And easy mode, everything's, maybe like 50% lower health, power, so that way players have a bit of an easier time. So what we want to do is make a preset, and we're just taking this guy as he is. We're just popping him in there, melee enemy, max everything. What range does he walk around in? Okay, so he sees around in this range. That's fine. You can change any of these things you want. Set up the character the way you want for him to be hard. And we press this blue button with the cube and a plus, and that makes a preset. And we're gonna name our preset Hard Boss. And then we're going to make another version of him where we're just gonna cut his stats in half. So his attack damage goes down to we'll do it 50. We're gonna go extra easy.
Okay, that's fair.
It's even lower, and his health is down to 500. So we've effectively cut his stats in half, a little bit lower than half. And we're gonna add another preset, and we're gonna say Easy Boss. Now our hard boss could have had more options, like he could have been non-stunnable, could have even been invincible, and then have totally different logic for how to beat him. These presets can be as complicated as you want, because you can make a preset of a whole logic family. So you can take. Actually, they don't even have to be connected to each other. You can say take two cars, select both of them, and make a preset, and it's going to make a preset of the two cars. But if you went into your hierarchy and you attached one car to another car, so you have a combined car, you can also make that a preset. So if you wanted to make a boss that couldn't be attacked by normal means and had to have a whole puzzle solved to make him killable, you could do that too. But we're keeping it simple. We've just got a hard version and an easy version based on the stats. Take this and run with it. Make it as complicated as you want. So we've got our two presets. If we go to the preset part of our library here, where are they? Why don't I see my presets? Do I have any filters on? Oh, I still had the legendary filter on. So if you're not seeing assets that you expect to see in your library, double check and click reset on these things, because what happened just now is I had wanted to find a legendary asset to be this hard boss, and I had set the rarity to legendary, and the presets don't technically have a rarity. I mean, the assets in them do, but as a preset itself, it doesn't have rarity. So the filter was just saying, oh, there's nothing So I've got my two presets. I can delete this guy. Don't need him. And now I need to make spawner assets for these things. So I'm going to make a tile. I saw somebody in the chat mention something about the logic donuts not working or something. I wasn't made aware of this. I'm not
towards the beginning. I can pull that up for you if you want me to.
I'm not familiar with what's happening with them right now. So who said it? Because they can probably reach out to me and I can see if I can find out more info about it. But nobody's mentioned it to me before, and I haven't noticed it myself. So I'm actually not sure what's going on with the logic donuts at the moment.
It was NFT Santum. When might there be a fix/rework for the logic donuts?
I will need more information than that because I'm not sure what's not working with them.
Yeah, I meant to ask that, and then the raid popped in, and I got a little distracted. But yeah, so I'll reach out to them and try to get more information from them. I'll let you know what they say.
Thank you. All right, so we're just gonna use numpads for now. So we're gonna make our first spawner. And we're gonna set it to be a single player asset spawner. And we don't need an offset. We're gonna turn collision off on this thing. Collision. And we're gonna toggle on the use preset option. And we're gonna select our easy boss. And let's see, what message should we use? So we're going to make boss dot spawn our required message. And that's actually it for this. So we can make another preset now. And there might be, this is actually me going off the top of my head of what I thought of a couple weeks ago. There may be a more efficient way to do this, but this is a way that I think should work and is pretty easy to learn.
It seems very straightforward.
So we're gonna create new, and we're gonna say easy spawner. Done. And then we are going to switch the preset on this to hard boss, and we're going to make another preset called hard spawner. Now we've got two spawners. And I'm arguing in my head about which order I should do this in. So we can delete that again. We're gonna take a sign. We're gonna put down a sign here. And this is going to be an asker, and it's going to ask us about what difficulty to set this at.
Okay. Instead of being outside the game, it's inside the game.
Yeah.
Did you see their reply?
Logic Donut is kind of weird, maybe hard to work. Numpads are OG and better, but we know that they cause performance drop if we use it too much. Not the same with logic asset, but I still cannot see a better way to work the numpads. Tiles. Tiles work better than numpads because they're not animated assets. Numpads actually have several animations on them to make it turn like red or green when you activate it. And if you use a tile, then you are using a more efficient asset. You could probably put more of them down before it becomes an issue. That is these guys, concrete floor tile.
And they don't even have to be visible.
No, they don't have to be visible. Well, and that's the good thing about logic assets is logic assets add no mesh to your game. And like you see the mesh as you're working your game, but then when somebody goes to play it, there's no model loading in for the logic asset. It's as efficient as it can be. That's why it's more efficient. So yeah, I don't think there's I don't know if there's specific quality of life or like efficiency in using logic donuts planned. Like I understand like they look different. That's kind of a good thing that makes them stand out. Like it's when I log into somebody's game that I've never looked at before, it's not logged in, but like when I go to edit somebody's game, they're like, Alex, I need help. And I like, can I get into your account? And they go, sure. And I load up their game. Logic assets are immediately visible. So I can see like, oh, there's logic happening here. So that's kind of a good aspect of them. But yeah, I agree. Like, you know, it's nicer to have like little rows of these on the ground instead of a bunch of logic donuts, which are maybe like harder to click on. But you know, it's do what works for you. Either option is valid, but like you said, if you use too many numpads, it's less efficient. I would use tiles to be more efficient. So like I think there's 3 different states for this. There's idle, turn off, and turn on. I can't really play it live, but yeah, I think either way, like just a tile is a more one has less mesh because it's just the single state of it instead of having multiple versions kind of hidden inside of this. And then animated decorations just take up more memory because the animation is another aspect of it that's in your either RAM or VRAM. So yeah, a tile would be the way to go. But I like numpads because my brain immediately goes to them just out of habit. All right. So anyway, Asker. Lukus, can you make a note? I want to talk about Askers at the end of this tutorial, but I don't want to interrupt this tutorial anymore. Just before we end the show, there's something important I need to explain about Askers right now. Mm-hmm. Not right now. Today.
At the end of the show.
Yeah.
Before the end of the show.
So our Asker is going to say, what difficulty would you like? And you can say, I'm squishy. Or demons fear me.
Which they do.
I mean, you know. Play enough Doom. Not scared of anything. Yeah, don't toggle on only once triggered. That has to do with what we're going to talk about later. And then we've got our A1 message and our A2 message. It's fine for us to leave the you know what? We will change it. So we're going to say boss.easy and boss.hard. So from this sign, we could spawn the boss in right now. we could have our preset spawners. We could have our easy spawner and our hard spawner sitting there from the beginning. And we could have the selection of hard or easy spawn the boss in with that message. So instead of using the boss.spawn message, we could use the boss.easy and boss.hard, and then whichever one we select would be the one that pops up. If your game is very small and very short and doesn't have a lot of enemies, that might be a totally fine solution. I'm thinking something like Dungeon of Dummies, which is a relatively short game with, I think it only has about a dozen or so enemies in it that you have to fight, maybe a few more. That's not too overwhelming on a computer. But if you're trying to make like a 2-hour long dungeon dive with hundreds of enemies, you don't want to spawn them all at once. You're gonna have a bad time. So
That's one way of putting it, yeah.
So instead of having the boss spawn immediately based on that, you will want to have the boss spawn later based on the option that you set. So let's do like a gate. We're gonna do we're just gonna have some sort of door here. Dragon's Gate. There we go. Good old version 0.06. Back when we had 2 zeros. 3, technically. All right.
NFT Sandom asks, there is a way to set a message attack to make the avatar attack instead of the left click? Or any of the animation pack?
You mean have a message force the player to play the attack animation? If that's what you're asking,
I'm not sure.
there's no way to have the game force an animation on the player. At least not yet. Yeah, so you have you can type, well, there's no in Game Maker testing, there's no chat, but if we were playing a game, we could hit the enter key, bring up the chat, and do /dance, and it would play a random dance, or we could do slash whatever the name of the dance is, and it'll play that specific dance. That I think only works for some of them. And then yeah, we have the emote wheel. You can do it. There's no emote wheel for attack.
Gotcha.
You can do all sorts of different emotes, but yeah, that's
Hey, Alex.
Hmm?
We got that winner.
Who's our winner?
Congrats goes out to Cosmodive 22.
Hey.
You have won Wizzy's burned orange hat. Please, my friend, enjoy it and wear it with pride. It may smell a little smoky, but we promise with some time that will fade away. Maybe get some Febreze. Maybe a little bit of baking soda. I'm not sure, but
we do
magical.
recommend washing before wearing.
Ooh, yes, it is used. So always smart.
So yeah, hopefully that answered NFT Santum's question. The game maker doesn't have a way to force the player to do any particular animations or emotes. The player has to select their own actions. And the attack animation is going to be strictly when you left click. I've usually been 6 to 8 weeks. Huddle. I don't think it's ever taken me that long to send a hat.
12 to 24 months minimum.
I usually send them out on the weekend. Sometimes
usually.
I miss a week. At most, I've missed maybe like 2 weeks.
He's really good about it.
I try to always make sure to spend time on Saturday or Sunday sending them out. That's Panda's standard answer. Well, Panda does her own NFT stuff.
She also generally under promises and over delivers. So she says 68 weeks, and then you get it in 2-3 weeks. But I mean, she's just mastering the art of managing expectations. She's telling you longer, and then it comes in short. I mean, it's brilliant. I do it all the time with clients, and it always works out wonderfully.
All right. So back to this. We don't want to spawn the bosses when we select the difficulty because we're making the assumption that this game is a lot more complicated, has a lot more enemies. You can use this exact same logic to spawn all the enemies in your game. So right now we're doing it with just a boss, but we could do this same process with all the other enemies that you're going to encounter. So we are going to have a room where we do the boss fight. There we go. So we're gonna put the boss on the other side of this wall, and opening this gate is gonna be what spawns him in. And you can use any logic you want to do this part. You could have it spawn in when you get a quest to kill the boss. You could have him spawn in based on proximity to the area, using basically what we showed earlier with having a speaker component sense them, things like that. So, it's your game. Set it up the way you want.
Please.
But we are going to do this. So when we get to this door, it needs to be a single player door because again, we're using all single player logic for this because there's only combat in single player games right now. There's no reason for us to use multiplayer logic here. So we're gonna do client only and door. Did we get rid of the single player door? Apparently, we only have multiplayer doors. So,
please disregard the last little bit of info.
So I don't think I can have the door. Well, let's see if it works.
I was just about to say, let's try it out and see what happens.
Okay, so we're gonna do it quick and messy, and we're gonna go to preset, easy spawner, and we're just gonna have it open automatically. So we're gonna interact. Message on open is going to be boss spawn. Is that in range? That is in range. And we're gonna see if this spawns. It might work because it's all in single player. Hey, it worked. Okay, good to know. So like I said before, if you're in single player, multiplayer and single player interactions kind of both all operate on the single player level because there is no multiplayer level. But if you are trying to make a multiplayer hub, all the things need to be multiplayer if you want them to interact with each other. You can do single player logic as we showed on a multiplayer hub, but it won't interact with the multiplayer things going on. Okay, I gotta position it perfectly, don't you know? I don't have a problem. All right. So we interact with with our difficulty level here. Now we want to have that difficulty level spawn our monster spawner. So we're spawning a spawner. And the reason we're doing that is so that we don't have an enemy logic, which is much more aggressive on CPU usage. It's gonna eat up more of your GPU because you've got that model sitting there, and then it's gonna keep on looking for a player to attack. So that's why we don't want to have all the enemies spawn at once. So we're gonna put spawners for the boss spawners here. Actually, we're just gonna do one first. We're going to make this a single player asset spawner. It's going to spawn a preset, and we're going to turn off collision again, just so that we don't have a bump on the floor. No collision. We're going to make it invisible, because we don't need to see it. And it's going to use the preset of easy spawner. I guess we'll still see the... I didn't think to make the preset invisible, but it doesn't really matter. Preset, easy spawner, and message required is going to be boss easy. And then we're going to duplicate this item. And it's going to spawn the hard spawner. And it's going to use boss hard.
Once you're done with this, I do have another question to ask, but we don't need to ask until you've worked your way through all this.
Sure. So those are going to spawn the spawners, and then opening the door is going to be what spawns the boss. So that boss.spawn only works after one of these presets has spawned their spawner. Right? So this should be all set. We interact with this. What difficulty would you like? You say, I'm squishy. And we can see if we look through the door, we only see one numpad, and that's the easy spawner there. And then when we open the door, boss spawns, and we see that it's got 500 health. Now, let's say we restart, and we interact with the sign. Demons fear me. We can now see that the numpad spawner is to the right. That's the other one. We open it, and boss has 1,018 health, and kills us almost immediately. So, that's how we do that. Now, a way that you could probably make this a little even more streamlined is, instead of using spawners on spawners, we could probably change the preset to use a behavior toggle. So we would place the easy spawner here, and we're going to change this edit logic. We're going to say preset is still easy boss. Message required is boss spawn. And then we're going to add a toggle component. Is right there in the middle. Like, it's dead middle in my screen, and my eyes just kept on skipping over it, going to all the edges. And the toggle component is going to turn on with boss.easy, and initial behavior state is going to be false. So the spawner by default will not activate with any message until the difficulty is set.
And then this would behave exactly the same way as what we just did, except instead of using a spawner to spawn another thing, we're just turning the original spawner on or off. Well, on technically. It's they all start off and then we turn them on. And then we can duplicate this asset. Basically, we don't need the preset anymore for the spawners. We just for the boss. So we change this from easy boss to hard boss. Change the message to boss easy. Or sorry, boss hard. And initial behavior state is false. So now we've got the two spawners are already there. And if we open the gate, nothing actually spawns. Whoop. When you click close, it crushes you in the door. Which seems appropriate. That's actually that's
really does.
That's a thing it didn't do before, and this door's been around for a few years now. Oh, it didn't do it that time. We'll try it on this side. Oh, it just squished us out. Oh well.
Yeah, it looks like it squished you out.
It was funny the first time. And so now we set the difficulty. Now you would probably want this to be a requirement at the start of your game. Either have it start automatically when you start the game, or maybe you have a little tutorial section, and as the player comes through, it asks this question. But you want the player to have to make a choice here, or make the choice for them. But either way, you don't want to get to the end boss and have it not spawn, right? So we say, I'm squishy. And so now only one boss spawned, and it's got 500 health. That's good. We could actually, because we can ask this question as many times as we want, we can actually say demons fear me, and it's going to spawn another one. Oh no, double trouble. But that could even be one of your difficulty modes. You could have it spawn multiple bosses based on the difficulty setting. Your difficulty setting could be 2 of the easy bosses, right? So instead of having separate spawners, or I mean, instead of having a hard boss spawner, duplicate your easy boss spawner, but just change the message to hard boss, and add, can you add another message required? Yeah, you could add hard boss as another option. Turn on message, hard boss. I think that would work. So it spawns with easy and it spawns with hard. This one only spawns with hard. Or I guess you don't even have to do that. You could just have the hard ones spawn, the easy ones spawn anyway. So don't put a toggle on it. It just spawns the boss regardless. And then you have boss hard message send, but we're going to spawn the easy boss. So it's just spawning 2 of the same one. So there's no toggle on this. It will always spawn a boss when you enter. But now we've got an optional second boss that when you select the hard boss option, it toggles on. So we open it, one boss shows up. And then if we say, I'm strong, I can do this the hard way. Now it spawns 2 of them. And then there's lots of other ways that you can set up. Like this is a preference setting, right? This is something you can do at the start of your game. You could ask this question at different stages through the game. Like you could have, say, a 3-act game with 3 major areas, and at the end of the first one, you have a conversation with an NPC. You can do it totally in line with the narrative of your game, and not have it be a setting at the start of your game where a character talks to the player about if they're struggling or not. So like, oh, did you find that dungeon very hard? And the player could select, it was super easy, barely an inconvenience. And then you'll be like, there you go, we're gonna make it harder now. Yeah, so depending on what the player says in this conversation, you could set up a different series of spawners. different difficulty of enemies, different types of enemies, different amounts of enemies. Just have those presets activate based on what the player selected. You can also, and gosh, we did a tutorial for this at least a year ago, may have been even longer ago. You could have and we set up this tutorial specifically because of the maze in the Artifact game. Was it not Cyber City? What was it called? I don't remember what it was.
I remember the Artifact City. Yeah, it was one
Yeah.
with parkour everywhere and all the places
Yeah.
you could fall. And
Well,
I remember.
The first version of it had a maze, which, like I did the
Yes, I remember that
and,
too.
And I noted to them, like, people are going to struggle with this maze because I had a hard time with this maze. Like, it's interesting. I still wanted to get through it, but I know that people were going to be very frustrated by it, and it ended up happening. And they ended up cutting the whole maze section.
I remember when they X'd that.
Wearing my Artifact hoodie. So I made this tutorial on stream way back then. That was Alpha Season 1, I think. I made a tutorial on how you can make a maze that asks the player if they need help. And back then we didn't have timers. We didn't have timers. We were very limited in our behaviors were a lot different then. I had like Wizzy chasing the player through this maze, like, I can help you. So what you can do now is say you could do a timer behavior. Single player timed events. It would wait for message, and the message would be, say, like the door opening, meaning the boss has spawned. Boss.spawn. So it'd be the same message that spawns the boss, would start the timer, and say after whatever reasonable amount of time you think it should take to kill the boss, and then add a little bit to that to be like, okay, at this point a player might be struggling. You don't want to make it too short because you don't want to be patronizing to the players. You're like, oh, you poor baby, you didn't beat the boss in 30 seconds. Do you need help? Like that's annoying as a player. I love Nintendo and Mario games. And recently in their games they started adding in Luigi in like a box, and if you die enough times on a level, at whether it's the start of the level or at your respawn checkpoint, Luigi will be in a box, and you can like open it, and he will start playing the level for you, and then you can retake control after he gets past the part that you're struggling at.
Do you think like that's that or dislike that?
I like it. I don't like the way they do it.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
Because there's a noise. He makes like I can't remember what the noise is. It's like a bing 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 bing. It just reminds me that I'm having a hard time. And for the most part, I don't want help. Like, I want to push through it and do it on my own. There were a couple levels in one of the more recent Mario games where I was like, I'm fed up with this part. Just do it. I've died like 50 times. Modern Mario games, it's the first few levels, it's really easy to stack up a ton of lives. So like I would have like 99 1-ups. And then like an hour later, I have 50 1-ups, and I'm like, this is getting rough because I just died in the same part over and over and over again. Fine, Luigi, you take the wheel. Like, just do it. Don't tell anybody I did that. I'm ashamed. But no, I think it's a fine mechanic to have. It's good to give players an option of like, hey, they really want to progress in the game, and they're just, they've got work, they've got kids, maybe they're 5. I always felt insecure as a child because I wasn't allowed to have video games, so I could only play them at friends' houses and family members. And I could only get so far through the game. I was, 5, I was 6. I was struggling. Like it takes a lot of skill to get past these parts. And as a kid, I just thought I was bad at games. And it's like, no, because they're hard sometimes, especially old NES and Super Nintendo games. They're challenging. So I'm totally fine with giving an option that allows players to get through and parts where they're struggling. And it doesn't give you the option right away. It only does it after you die, I think 5 times in a row or something like that.
Well, I mean, there's a certain point when games go from being fun to frustrating, and having that balance between the two and having the ability to be incredibly difficult while still being, completable. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. So I'm totally fine with the mechanic. The annoying thing is the noise it was making, because then every time I would respawn, I'd be like, I'm going to get it this time. But I hear that ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, shut up. I got it. Leave me alone.
Shut up, Luigi. This is why you're player 2.
Yeah. And I don't think I'm not sure if there's a way to deactivate it, but,
mute.
Yeah, it's just the noise, was just reminding me how bad I was doing and just making me annoyed. So I'm totally fine with having a mechanic in there, but don't insult your players, right? Don't make it like, oh, you didn't beat the boss in 5 seconds. You don't have a super ultra legendary sword, mythic, glowing runes all over the place. You're not a god tier.
Way to go, noob.
You didn't get good. Just. It's okay. Give them some time. Let them feel the pressure. Let them feel the struggle. Don't hold their hand. Point them in the right direction, but don't hold their hand until they reach out for you and are like, oh, I'm not getting this. So give them I don't know, a 5-minute timer. And this is where playtesting becomes really important. Get your community involved. Get your friends. Get family. Get people around you to play the game. And see how time them. Really, this is something that AAA companies do. Portal specifically, they would watch people play the game, and they would just look at their faces and be like, they're getting frustrated now. I can see they're getting pissed off. They're not getting it. They're and it's right there. The solution's right there. I know where it is because I'm the one who made the solution. But look, you got to watch for those struggle points. People like to make fun of, I think it's Resident Evil has crates that are spray painted yellow to highlight where they are, and people were making fun of it, saying, who needs this bright yellow? What players can't find these crates? And yeah, they couldn't. That was the problem. The people making the game did play tests, and players were not noticing these crates full of items that were supposed to help them. They were walking right past them. And when they spray painted them yellow, then the players were able to find them, and they had a better time. So you can make fun of people's design decisions, but those were decisions made based on research and play tests. So just because you are a god tier gamer and where the special things are because you got your special eyes and your special brand contact lenses, it doesn't mean that all players are going to have as easy of a go at it. So
when Alex says you, he's obviously talking to me because I'm a pro gamer. So just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, no, all of you in the audience, you're all great. It's the bad stuff is Lukus, and this is me berating
I'm all
him.
the bad things.
Yeah,
all the bad things in the world should happen to me and only me.
So yeah, give the players enough time to get a little sweaty, get a little frustrated, and then offer your hand and be like, hey, are you struggling? And what you can do at that point, so you've got this timer running, and it's taking the player 5 minutes, and they haven't beaten the boss yet. Or it doesn't have to be a timer; it could be a lives counter. So you could have a bunch of items, a bunch of asset spawners in a chain. So when the player dies, that death message will trigger the asset spawner to spawn the next one, and maybe you have 3 of them in a row. So they've died to the boss 3 times. And then on the third one, it gives this message saying, hey, do you need help? Like it's our the the Wizzies are offering their assistance in defeating this boss. Would you like it? And
Or would you like Wizzy to shut up and go away?
right?
Like, what do you want to happen?
And you could say no, and they could like I would put maybe like yes, no, or never ask me again. And never ask me again would be like the disable the option for the rest of the game. Don't have this pop up anymore. No, maybe it would reset the counter, reset the timer, and it would ask them again after that time period. And then yes would activate whatever your help is, and your help could be it could be destroying the boss with like a plant behavior, so that way it doesn't trigger like a death for that would complete a quest. You could do that, and then respawn the boss as an easier version of the boss. It could be just doing a massive amount of damage to the boss.
So the problem he's already kind of damaged.
Yeah, well, it would. You've already been fighting the boss for a while, right? So this would potentially damage the boss. The issue there being like it could kill the boss, which would remove the satisfaction from the player of them having been the ones to kill the boss. But that could be an option. Just check my messages real quick, make sure I don't have a child waiting for me.
They just got out of their swimming lessons and they're standing on the street corner, dripping wet, holding a towel and their sandals.
Dance lessons, but yeah.
Okay, it's a little better than swim lessons because at least they're not soaking wet.
They both take dance classes on Wednesdays, but my younger daughter, her classes end earlier, and we're close enough that sometimes my wife will just bring her home, but she hasn't said anything, so I think I'm safe. And then so yeah, it would remove the satisfaction from the player if your help kills the boss automatically, and then the player's like, oh well, I wanted to kill them still. So that was annoying, but so I probably wouldn't deal a massive amount of damage to the boss. I would maybe like do a replacement of the boss with an easier boss. And you could have it spawn in a healer. You could spawn a Wizzy in there, casting heal spells on the player. There's all sorts of different options. Whatever you think would assist the player in that point. So yeah, these are all different ways that you could change up the difficulty while the game is live. And so it could be based on timers, it could be based on lives. Those are the two main ways I would trigger that. And then it could also be an option at the beginning of the game, or it could be something kind of bespoke in the dialogue, where you encounter more challenging enemies because you're bragging to the NPCs that you're having too easy of a time. Or you could have it be based on how quickly you get through things. If you have timers set and the player beats a section before a timer is up, then that can trigger some logic to go like, oh, this player needs to be humbled a little bit. We're gonna make the next boss a little bit harder. They're getting through this too fast. So all sorts of different ways you can set this up. Obviously, if you're having difficulty with it, feel free to ask in the chat and we can try to figure it out in more advanced ways. But this is kind of the general tutorial. So if you have more specific questions as you try to set up a system like this, as always, you can ask them in the chat. Lukus, you had a question.
Yes, sir.
What was that question?
I did. 1 second, let me pull that up. Do we need to create a preset for every platform to be either faster or slower in a race game, for example, when you choose between easy and hard at the beginning of the level? Or is it possible to group every platform under just 2 presets?
You could do your entire level logic as a single preset. So, you can
I just put the question in the chat in case you wanted to read it again and in case anybody else wanted to read what I just said.
Okay. So let's say you set up this parkour course, and these are all going at a slow speed for your easy mode. They don't have to be in. They don't have to have a parent object or anything like that. You can just multi-select them, drag select, or you can shift select. Click on multiple and click preset, and you would say platform group easy 1A, whatever you want to call it. I searched. Sorry, create new, and then platform group. Done. And now you can delete that, and you can now, from your asset spawner, you can select that. So we're going to change this asset spawner to spawn platform group. And you can see it's got a different icon. It's got this, it's a group of objects instead of showing the individual thumbnails. And you hit play. And now when we open the door, all of our platforms have shown up. Now you can see that this they're offset from where I originally put them, and that's because they're centered around this spawn. Now, something to potentially be aware about. I have heard that sometimes there's issues with orientation based on the spawn. We're going to see if that rotates. Okay, so you see, even though I rotated that 90 degrees, they still spawned in their original orientation. So that's something to be aware about. That you want to... Oh, well, now they're 40. They're 45, but they're on the group. What? So their relative positions is the same as the way I placed them, but it did angle the assets. Interesting. Okay, I didn't realize it was going to do that. So in that case, you might need to actually have a parent objects. Let's see what happens if we place a bunch, and we're going to make this asset here is going to be the parent object. So we're going to attach these all to this numpad here. I don't know if this is going to work or not, so we'll see. So we select that one, we make a new preset, and is that a... Okay, it's showing just the one, but I think it should grab all the rest. We're going to change this to spawn plat. Okay, that worked. See, now the whole group is offset. So something to be aware of as you set this up. If you make a group of objects and there's any offset or rotation or even motion, because you can move a spawner. You can have a spawner be an NPC walking around and spinning and stuff. If they are individual objects in a group with no parent object, they will spawn relative to each other in whatever orientation the spawner turns to, but their rotation, it will individually stay the same. Wait, no, I got that wrong. The group's positions will stay the same regardless of which way the spawner is rotated, but each individual object will rotate. So these wolves would spawn, but each one of them would be rotated 45 degrees. So you need to give them a parent object and have them all be children of that object if you want the whole group to rotate and keep their orientation the same to each other. just a note. If you're setting up something like a parkour, that can be very important, because if you're setting up a parkour preset where your whole level generates based on the difficulty you set, you're going to want those platforms to be in the right position to each other. So be aware of that. I think that answered that question.
I think so.
Cool. The last thing that I wanted to go over, there
was
is
that other question you asked about?
Is the thing I wanted you to remind me about, but I did remember.
Okay, cool.
There is a bug in 0.8.9. I don't know. I haven't seen the changelog for 0.8.9 yet, so I don't know if it's mentioned there or not. Only once triggered does not work at all. I mean, it will ask you, but the things that it asks will not. It doesn't send a message. If you click the only once triggered, your message answers, boss easy, boss hard, I have here, those don't get sent if you have this option toggled on. And then you can't go and ask it again because you already asked it. It asked only once. So if you are making a social hub and people are playing it and they talk to a character and they select an answer and then nothing happens, and then they try to talk to the character and nothing happens again, and they can't even talk to the character again, it's because you have this only once triggered toggled on. There is a workaround, and it is using the toggle component. There's two ways of doing it, really. So if you have just a single asker like we have here, it's not a whole conversation tree. It's just like you talk to an NPC and they say, like, do you want a cookie? And you say yes or no, and that's the only thing, and you only want to give that option once. Then you will need a relay asset, which will be a message behavior. So when you say the answer, whatever it is, yes or no, that message will also go to a message behavior. There's Oh, I clicked component. I'm sorry. I'm like, where's message? Message broadcaster. Because assets can't send a message directly to themselves in a loop. It has to relay. So it will. It is 0.8.9 out.
I don't think.
I thought it was supposed to come out on the 16th, but maybe it didn't. But this is a heads up. You might encounter this
soon.
I may have jumped the gun. I didn't see an announcement about it, but I was operating off of what I saw on a calendar. So forgive me if I misspoke. But just to be aware of, I don't think that this will download on website. It says 0.8.9. Okay, so it did come out. It was a stealth release. So yeah, go grab 0.8.9 then. I don't think that this issue was fixed before release, because it's like when we find an issue like that, it would cause more delays to like fix the issue. So you're just gonna have to wait till the next version for a fix. But this at least has a very easy workaround. The asker behavior will send a message for whatever you want to have happen from that asker. But then this message broadcaster will bounce back to toggle this off. So say you only get offered the cookie once. Like, do you want a cookie? And you say no. Well, now you can't get a cookie ever. So this message broadcaster will respond to that no message by sending the toggle off message to a component on here. Okay. I'm not going to do all the logic. I trust you guys. You can figure it out from what I just said. I believe in you.
You shouldn't trust me.
Well, there's a reason Lukus hires people who make games. You're like a director, producer. What would you call yourself in this?
I'd say director. Yeah, that's a really
Director?
good.
Okay.
Yeah, a project director, management. I don't know how to phrase
Yeah.
it. Marketing director, project director. Yeah,
He
there you go.
he looks for people with a certain set of skills and sets them
I
moves.
do.
So yeah, message the asker is gonna relay to message broadcaster, which bounces it back to the toggle to toggle this asker off. That's if you only have one question, one asker. If you have multiple askers, then you can do the same effect. So question 1 gets asked and you make a response, and your response activates question 2, and whatever your answer is to question 2 will toggle question 1 off. Really, basically the same thing as the first one, but this way you can do it with a whole conversation tree. So that's your workaround for not having the ask only once. There you go. Have fun in 0.8.9. And I'm done.
You done? That's it?
That was a big
That's
knowledge
all?
dump today.
It was. But I think it was time well spent.
It's been a while since we've had like heavy tutorial things. So yeah. I'll have to let Panda know. Maybe she can put like bookmarks on the YouTube upload so people can find
Ooh.
these things.
Fancy.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out. Hope you learned something useful. And somebody's saying raid is Go West isn't raiding us right now, are they? Because
No, Go West is suggesting we raid.
Oh, raid Tempest. Yes, please, let's raid Tempest. I'm always down to raid Tempest.
We can do that.
All right. Well, have fun. Go say hi to Cody and Lozen for us. I need to go eat dinner. And
Same.
I will see you all on Saturday for the Dead Fellows Game Jam.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for stopping by.
See ya.